Let's discuss key challenges in procurement of materials and their detailed mitigation options. 1. Supply chain disruptions. Procurement of materials is one of the key components of business operations in an organization. Any disruption in the supply chain can lead to major operational challenges. To mitigate such risks, organizations need to establish contingency plans and alternative sources of supply. This can involve diversifying suppliers and maintaining safety stock to ensure a steady supply of materials. The key persona involved in this process would be the procurement manager, who would be responsible for identifying and managing suppliers. Companies can use supply chain management software, such as SAP Ariba or Oracle SCM, to manage suppliers and monitor inventory levels. 2. Volatility of commodity prices. Commodity prices can be volatile due to various market forces, such as supply and demand dynamics, geopolitical issues, and natural disasters. This can make it difficult for organizations to budget and plan for procurement of materials. To mitigate such risks, companies can monitor market trends, negotiate long-term contracts with suppliers, and hedge against price fluctuations by using financial instruments such as futures contracts. The key persona involved in this process would be the procurement analyst, who would be responsible for conducting market research and analyzing pricing trends. Companies can use financial software, such as Bloomberg or Reuters, to monitor commodity prices and track market trends. 3. Poor supplier performance. Poor supplier performance can lead to delays in the procurement process, quality issues, and increased costs. To mitigate such risks, companies need to conduct thorough supplier evaluations, establish clear expectations, and implement performance metrics. This can involve setting up service level agreements, that is, SLAs, with suppliers, and monitoring their performance against these metrics. The key persona involved in this process would be the procurement manager, who would be responsible for managing supplier relationships. Companies can use supplier management software, such as SAP Ariba or Coupa, to manage supplier performance and monitor compliance with SLAs. 4. Inadequate communication and collaboration with suppliers. Effective communication and collaboration with suppliers is critical to ensuring a smooth procurement process. To mitigate communication risks, organizations need to establish clear lines of communication, use technology tools to facilitate communication, and hold regular meetings with suppliers. This can involve using collaboration tools such as Slack or Microsoft Teams to communicate with suppliers and share project updates. The key persona involved in this process would be the procurement coordinator, who would be responsible for coordinating communication with suppliers. Companies can use procurement collaboration software, such as SAP Ariba or Zicus, to manage supplier communication and collaboration. 5. Quality issues. Ensuring the quality of materials procured is important to avoid production delays, product recalls, and customer complaints. To mitigate quality risks, organizations need to implement quality control processes, conduct inspections, and require certifications. This can involve setting up quality assurance programs and conducting regular audits of suppliers. The key persona involved in this process would be the quality control manager, who would be responsible for ensuring the quality of materials procured. Companies can use quality management software, such as Master Control or EC, to manage quality control processes and track quality metrics. 6. Lack of transparency in the supply chain. Lack of transparency in the supply chain can lead to reputational risks, regulatory non-compliance, and unethical practices. To mitigate such risks, organizations need to conduct due diligence on suppliers, establish traceability programs, and monitor supplier practices. This can involve setting up supplier onboarding processes and conducting regular audits of suppliers. The key persona involved in this process would be the supply chain analyst, who would be responsible for analyzing supply chain risks. Companies can use supply chain visibility software, such as SAP Ariba or Resealing, to manage supply chain risks and monitor supplier practices. 7. Difficulty in forecasting demand. Forecasting demand is important to ensure that the organization has adequate inventory levels to meet customer demand. To mitigate demand forecasting risks, companies can use data analytics and forecasting tools, establish collaborative relationships with customers, and track market trends. This can involve using demand planning software, such as Oracle Demand Management or Demand, to analyze historical sales data and forecast future demand. The key persona involved in this process would be the demand planner, who would be responsible for forecasting demand and managing inventory levels. 8. Inaccurate specifications or requirements. Inaccurate specifications or requirements can lead to procurement of materials that are not fit for purpose, resulting in increased costs and production delays. To mitigate such risks, organizations need to conduct thorough needs assessments, engage with suppliers in the design phase, and ensure specifications are clearly defined. This can involve setting up requirements gathering processes and conducting workshops with suppliers. The key persona involved in this process would be the requirements analyst, who would be responsible for gathering and documenting requirements. Companies can use requirements management software, such as IBM Rational Requisite Pro or JAMA Connect, to manage requirements and collaborate with suppliers. 9. Inventory management challenges. Effective inventory management is important to ensure that the organization has adequate inventory levels to meet customer demand while minimizing inventory holding costs. To mitigate inventory management risks, companies need to implement inventory management systems, conduct regular inventory audits, and establish safety stock levels. This can involve setting up inventory management processes and using inventory management software, such as SAP Inventory Management or Fishbowl, to manage inventory levels. The key persona involved in this process would be the inventory analyst, who would be responsible for managing inventory levels and conducting inventory audits. Intellectual property infringement. Intellectual property infringement can lead to legal liabilities and reputational risks. To mitigate such risks, organizations need to conduct due diligence on suppliers, establish clear expectations and legal contracts, and monitor supplier practices. This can involve setting up intellectual property management processes and conducting regular audits of suppliers. The key persona involved in this process would be the intellectual property counsel, who would be responsible for managing intellectual property risks. Companies can use intellectual property management software, such as Anaqua or CPA Global, to manage intellectual property risks and monitor supplier practices. Security risks. Security risks can lead to data breaches, reputational risks, and regulatory non-compliance. To mitigate such risks, organizations need to conduct background checks on suppliers, implement security protocols, and monitor supplier practices. This can involve setting up security management processes and conducting regular security audits of suppliers. The key persona involved in this process would be the security analyst, who would be responsible for managing security risks. Companies can use security management software, such as RSA Archer or Symantec Endpoint Protection, to manage security risks and monitor supplier practices. Ethical sourcing concerns. Ethical sourcing concerns can lead to reputational risks, regulatory non-compliance, and legal liabilities. To mitigate such risks, organizations need to conduct due diligence on suppliers, establish clear ethical sourcing policies, and monitor supplier practices. This can involve setting up ethical sourcing management processes and conducting regular audits of suppliers. The key persona involved in this process would be the ethical sourcing manager, who would be responsible for managing ethical sourcing risks. Companies can use ethical sourcing management software, such as SourceMap or EcoVadis, to manage ethical sourcing risks and monitor supplier practices. Regulatory compliance. Regulatory compliance is important to ensure that the organization operates within legal and ethical boundaries. To mitigate regulatory risks, organizations need to stay up to date on regulatory requirements, engage with legal experts, and implement compliance training. This can involve setting up compliance management processes and conducting regular compliance audits. The key persona involved in this process would be the compliance officer, who would be responsible for managing regulatory risks. Companies can use compliance management software, such as Navex Global or MetricStream, to manage regulatory risks and monitor compliance. Geopolitical risks. Geopolitical risks can lead to supply chain disruptions, reputational risks, and legal liabilities. To mitigate such risks, organizations need to conduct risk assessments, monitor geopolitical trends, and diversify suppliers. This can involve setting up risk management processes and conducting regular risk assessments. The key persona involved in this process would be the risk analyst, who would be responsible for managing geopolitical risks. Companies can use risk management software, such as RSA Archer or Logic Manager, to manage geopolitical risks and monitor supplier practices. Environmental concerns. Environmental concerns can lead to reputational risks, regulatory non-compliance, and legal liabilities. To mitigate such risks, organizations need to conduct due diligence on suppliers, implement sustainability programs, and monitor supplier practices. This can involve setting up environmental management processes and conducting regular audits of suppliers. The key persona involved in this process would be the sustainability manager, who would be responsible for managing environmental risks. Companies can use sustainability management software, such as Enablon or Sphera, to manage environmental risks and monitor supplier practices. Cultural differences. Cultural differences can lead to communication challenges, misunderstandings, and conflicts. To mitigate such risks, organizations need to conduct cultural awareness training, establish clear expectations, and engage in cross-cultural communication. This can involve setting up cross-cultural management processes and conducting regular cross-cultural training sessions. The key persona involved in this process would be the cross-cultural manager, who would be responsible for managing cross-cultural risks. Companies can use cross-cultural management software, such as Culture Wizard or Hofstede Insights, to manage cross-cultural risks and monitor supplier practices. Lack of qualified personnel. Lack of qualified personnel can lead to operational inefficiencies and increased costs. To mitigate such risks, organizations need to invest in training and development programs, outsource procurement tasks, and hire qualified personnel. This can involve setting up talent management processes and conducting regular talent reviews. The key persona involved in this process would be the talent manager, who would be responsible for managing talent risks. Companies can use talent management software, such as Workday or SAP SuccessFactors, to manage talent risks and monitor employee performance. Financial risks. Financial risks can lead to increased costs and operational inefficiencies. To mitigate such risks, organizations need to establish financial risk management policies, monitor supplier financial health, and implement payment and financing programs. This can involve setting up financial risk management processes and conducting regular financial risk assessments. The key persona involved in this process would be the financial analyst, who would be responsible for managing financial risks. Companies can use financial risk management software, such as SAP Ariba or Kyriba, to manage financial risks and monitor supplier financial health. Inefficient procurement processes. Inefficient procurement processes can lead to operational inefficiencies and increased costs. To mitigate such risks, organizations need to conduct process reviews and improvements, use technology tools to streamline processes, and establish clear policies and procedures. This can involve setting up procurement process management processes and conducting regular process reviews. The key persona involved in this process would be the procurement process analyst, who would be responsible for managing procurement process risks. Companies can use procurement process management software, such as SAP Ariba or Coupa, to manage procurement process risks and monitor process performance. Lack of transparency and accountability. Lack of transparency and accountability can lead to operational inefficiencies and increased costs. To mitigate such risks, organizations need to establish clear metrics and performance indicators, engage in regular performance evaluations, and implement reporting and oversight mechanisms. This can involve setting up performance management processes and conducting regular performance evaluations. The key persona involved in this process would be the performance manager, who would be responsible for managing performance risks. Companies can use performance management software, such as SAP SuccessFactors or Halogen, to manage performance risks and monitor employee performance. We really thank you for your time spent on this session. Feel free to meet our partners by sending an inquiry email to contact us at t24global.com. Most of our partners have 15 to 20 years industry experience. So, please get in touch for any quick, managed business process and IT consulting needs.